2, 1, go.
He's just counting, David. Hey, do you want to put the Facebook up on your screen?
See if I can find it. Yeah.
That way you'll be able to get your comments up on your screen because it's bigger than my phone. Apparently we're live. I've just had a notification we're live, David. I would never have noticed. Oh, 2 viewers. Hi, Rebecca. Hi, Dylan.
Oh, here we go. Here we are. Right. Okay. Let's open you up.
That way you'll be able to get your oh, 2 viewers.
Turn you down. There we go. Right.
Right, here we go. We'll get Vince in, Lenny in, Robert T. Bruce is in.
Tommy, Ewan, Kirsty Folds, Alex Russell, Duncan Strang, Paul Fulton,
We've got A.
Billy Holland, Alex Adam.
We've got Ash Stewart in. We've got Ash Stewart in. There's hundreds of Stewarts. What Ash Stewart are you?
Rosalind Irvin, Margaret Mackay, Maggie Brennan, Maggie, Stephen Kelly, hello Stephen, J. Williams. That's your lot on so far on Facebook or whatever they're called this week. John McGoran.
Hi, John. Yeah, we'll get Ginger back for America. Hi, Ginger.
Sandra Wallace, Elizabeth Camper Brown, Pat Summers. Hi, guys.
We're getting there. No, anyway, we're talking about what we're going to talk about today is plebiscite election.
I thought it was cars and engines and things like that.
We were going to talk about cars and engines, but we decided that this lot wouldn't be interested in cars and engines. You know, unless it's Terry Vanderman, of course, because he's trying to fix his motor now.
And I'm trying to change a blooming headlight bulb on a Ford Cougar, and it won't let me. I'm going to have to Google it anyway. So, what's the sort of numbers we've got on YouTube, Davey? Can you see?
I can only tell you the combined numbers here. The combined number for both YouTube and Facebook at the moment is 86 people.
Yeah, I know. YouTube.
Who are you calling a tube?
I was looking up stuff earlier on.
Gordon's looking out his window in Inverness, and he says it's it's dry, bright, and chilly in Inverness. So that's the weather for Inverness, folks. If you want to know what the weather's like with you, I'll look at your own bloody window. Hey, Chris, you're late. Get to the naughty step and watch you don't burn your arse in the candle. Okay. I only put that there to warm my seat up for you. Right, we're going to talk about plebiscite elections today.
Yeah.
And a couple of other issues that are going on in the background as well.
Well, I shoved out a post this morning, referenced my relative disgust at the thought that the SNP hierarchy had already made their minds up before we go to this powwow or conference at the end of March.
Yeah, well, it seems that Angus has got a whiff of that, hasn't he? Because he's led an amendment. Jesus Christ, Kelly, that's very, very generous of you. Wow.
Okay. Just be careful, guys. These stickers or a cup of coffee or whatever, it's like, just be careful. I don't want to see any of you extending yourselves too much, and it ends up that's 20 quid out of your blooming food shop at the end of the week.
I'm sure you're off, Kelly's very well aware of her own finances, and I'm sure she knows how you feel about anybody try to overstretch themselves. Yeah. Only donate if you can afford, folks.
Yeah,
simple as that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Now, back to plebiscite elections. Now, it looks as if there's going to be 3 different things put up at conference. a Westminster plebiscite election, a Westminster plebiscite election for a mandate to hold a Scottish election as a plebiscite election, and the other option, of course, is just to dissolve the Parliament after an amendment to the 2016 Scotland Act, a simple majority. It's within the power of the Scottish Parliament to amend the legislation. That's if they don't kibosh it with a 35 order.
Well, it seems that from what I hear from the jungle drums is that the option is to run a plebiscite based on a Westminster election.
That's right.
Which, to be honest with you, I've got no confidence in it. I really do have no confidence in it. I feel that the best route we've got is the Scottish plebiscite, and that then gives us the better franchise of 16 to 17-year-olds and those Europeans that are here or whatever, right? And it's controlled by us. Yeah.
Aye. Well, let's have a look at what Angus, the amendment that Angus has laid for conference. Now, this comes up, folks. It's going to be too wee for you to read on a mobile phone or even on the screen here, no matter how big I make it. And I'm going to make it bigger in a second so I can read it. That's how small it is. But I'll read this to you. Okay. Now, this is the amendment laid for conference by Angus Brendan McNeill. Right, conference restates the SNP's founding belief that the best future for Scotland is as an independent nation and reiterates the following principles. Conference notes that paragraph 81 of the Supreme Court decision states that the Scottish Parliament does not have the power to use the ballot box for a referendum on independence, as the referendum on the question envisaged would undoubtedly be an important political event. The Supreme Court further stated a clear outcome would possess the authority in a constitution and a political culture founded upon democracy of a clear expression of the views of the Scottish electorate, and would have important political consequences relating to both the Union and the United Kingdom Parliament. That means that the Supreme Court made a political decision and no a legal one, which should be challenged, but we'll get to that. Now, the Supreme Court therefore felt, not for legal but for political consequences, bound to block a referendum originating in the devolved Parliament due to the effects on non-devolved matters, namely the current Union. Therefore, given the acceptance of a political culture founded upon democracy, conference resolved to use the same ballot boxes at an election event to gain the view of the people and their democratic authority on the matter of independence in Scotland, noting that courts in the democratic world do not block elections. Now, given the current reality of Westminster blocking a referendum on independence, conference resolves that the people shall speak at an election with authority on independence, and the majority of votes for the SNP and other parties standing on the clear pro-independence position in their manifesto shall be regarded as an authoritative view of the people on independence in the event of a majority for such votes combining for independence. Conference also notes that there are 3 ways to trigger an early Holyrood election. Resignation of the First Minister to trigger as per the 1998 Scotland Act. That wouldn't work because what would happen is the Tories would end up with Davies in the chair. Right. Option 2, 2/3 of the current MSPs voting to dissolve Parliament. Well, I suppose the First Minister could goad the Parliament into that because they're always shouting, you're crap, you're crap, you're crap. The First Minister could say, right, let's dissolve Parliament and take it to the people. Watch the cuckoos in the nest, day somersaults then. Right, or you could amend standing orders or legislation to cause an early election by simple majority as per the 2016 Scotland Act. Conference therefore resolves that the next election or elections should now logically be used for independence, and the first such opportunity should be an early Holyrood election held on the 19th of October 2023, brought about by option 3 above, namely through a 2016 Scotland Act enabling a majority of MSPs at the Scottish Parliament to bring about an election. So I'll shut that down now. I can always go back to it. Now, David, there's only one problem with the idea of the Scottish election before a Westminster election, and that is that the Supreme Court said that the Scottish Parliament doesn't have the power to run on that issue.
Yeah,
that's why the SNP are proposing that the 2024, well, it'll be before that, but the next general election be a mandate to then bring forward the Scottish election on the single issue. Now, if they get the majority of votes to majority MPs, that meets the court's ruling.
Right. First question that's got to be answered is, was the Supreme Court competent to bring forth such a decision?
No, it wasn't.
People like myself would argue, and people like you as well would argue, that no, the Supreme Court does not have the competence because they are not an international court. And as they're dealing with an issue that is related to a treaty, to an international treaty between two countries, therefore they do not have the competency to make that, bring forth a decision on it, right? And as we were discussing earlier, and you brought up the information about what Salvo were up to and what they were.
Jen Daly sent me to look here. Anyway, what they've done is they've got a number of MPs at Westminster, including the two Alpha Party walkers.
Thank you, Lenny.
Along with Joanne Sherry and Angus Brennan McNeill and a few others, they're going to challenge the Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah.
Now, as far as I can make out from what I've read, the challenge to the Supreme Court ruling will be based on the 1689 claim of right. Now, as you and I both understand quite clearly, the only thing that claim of right actually pertains to is the head of state. It doesn't pertain to the form of governance. The form of governance is covered in the 1989 claim of right, the one that they put through the Parliament again in 2018.
Yeah.
So, what they're saying is they're going to go challenge the Supreme Court ruling on the claim of right and on international law.
Now, which court should that go through?
Well, I would take it to the Court of Session, of course, because we're talking about Scots law.
What about ECHR? What about
I would go there and all, but I'd go there as well and hope that they would put it at the top of the list to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Because cases can sit in the ECHR for years.
But the thing about it is, I think it's sufficient just to change the way we want to work, right? And run roughshod over the decision by the Supreme Court.
Jim's proposing we take it to the International Court of Justice. I'll lie on a shelf there for 20 years.
Yeah, that's right.
And we know that the International Court of Justice, Westminster's ignored them already. They've also ignored the Supreme Court on the people of the Chagos Islands.
Yeah.
But as I say, let's get back to what Salvo and these MPs are up to. The problem there is they're going in the 1689 claim of right, which allows us to change the head of state or the monarch. It doesn't allow us to change the form of governance, so it doesn't affect Westminster. Whereas the 1989 claim of right clearly states that we should be allowed to choose the form of governance that suits us best.
So, as discussed prior to this broadcast today, David, what did you bring up was a better use?
A better use of the 1689 claim of right is to get an MSP who's a Republican, and we've got a fair idea, but we're not going to name him, to table an amendment, to table a motion in the Scottish Parliament to state that King Charles is failing in his constitutional duties to Scotland by not sticking by that claim of right. and denying Scotland's democracy, and no signing a referendum bill, and so forth. So you could threaten Charlie and kick him off the throne.
And say to him, now, Charlie, either get us a Section 30 from that lot down there, or you're off.
Because, as we know, it's been done before. We have removed the monarch, and that was in 1689.
Yeah.
Scotland run without a monarch up until the Treaty of Union.
Yeah.
I think it was 1707 when the crown was restored to Scotland.
Yeah, but that in itself, I've got to say, was in my eyes, was a mistake, because it created a power vacuum in Scotland, and it meant that we were constantly the monarch in England was constantly going, right, we're taking Scotland, we're doing this, we're doing that, right?
That's what brought about things like the Alien Act and things like that. You know what I mean?
That's right. Had we had a strong monarch in place in Scotland, then I don't believe much of that would have happened.
But class action's got an interesting point there. It says you go for the weak link, and that is big ears.
Yeah.
Problem is, of course, the First Minister's a monarchist, so she's not going to do that.
Yeah.
But and the SNP policy is to keep the monarchy until such times in the future we have a vote on it. You know, that's down to the people in the future. But at the moment, the policy is to keep the monarchy, because, let's face it, there's a lot of royalists out there who would vote for independence if they thought the crown was still going to be there. And
but the other
point of view,
the other thing to do, which is actually quite funny, is while you're on it, and while you're on saying, Charlie, you'll be booted out as monarch of Scotland, right? That's where you want to be, right? We're going to take away your right to blooming ride your fucking horses with your blooming dugs at the weekend.
Is any other country had to fight so hard for independence? Hi, people have fought and died for independence, Fiona. We're trying to do it without blood loss.
Yeah.
We're trying to do it without blood loss. But I mean, I'm all for the idea that a Republican MSP table a motion in Holyrood to say that the Crown's not standing up to its constitutional responsibility here.
Yeah.
Because we all watched Charlie sign that claim of right, saying that we could kick him off the throne if we didn't think he was doing things right for us.
Yeah.
You know, it's fighting hard for your independence is what people do. We're actually no fighting that hard when you get right, don't you? We're trying to do it democratically, which is the right way to do it, with no blood loss. What we do have is a bunch of democracy deniers in Westminster who only recognise their superiority and bugger all else, where the democracy doesn't mean much.
And they have none. They have none. They have no superiority, right? They think they have through the decision of the Supreme Court, but in actual fact, as we would argue, the Supreme Court did not have the competence to actually make that decision. And that's not something new that we're saying. We've been saying that practically since the day that they actually brought out that decision. They do not have the competence, right?
Oh, it's an international treaty. She went to an international court.
Yes, that's right.
And where do we normally settle international disputes like this?
International Court of Justice would have been one, but a bit slow. ECHR, yes. But if I
remember right, while we're in this union, we're still signatories to the Vienna Conventions, the Vienna Accords. Yeah. Could we just invoke them and have them come in and have a look at the decision?
No, you see, the thing is, I hear what you're saying on that. Good point. But in actual fact, it is the UK government that has to bring that on. That's the problem. You're going to ask them yet again. Them that are not going to give us a Section 30 to actually bring on the Helsinki or the Vienna Convention. And make that happen. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. We're in a similar situation with that. What was the situation we were in the lead up to 2014? I seem to remember a similar situation. It was the fact that we were looking for international coverage of the actual vote itself.
Aye, we wanted international observers, that's right.
Yeah,
and we weren't allowed any official international observers.
No, who did we contact? We contacted somebody and they said no, it has to be brought forth by Westminster.
That's right, they've got to ask for it.
Yeah.
That was the United Nations actually said no.
Yeah.
But we did have international observers in from Canada and from Australia, from Russia, who both made deputations to the United Nations to say that the referendum had been rigged.
Yeah.
And it was an unsecure vote.
So
both Canada and the Russians, and it was ignored at the United Nations.
The problem that we've got, as I see it, is that when a referendum or a plebiscite election goes ahead, right, we still do not have the changes in place to our voting system to ensure that fiddling can't go ahead. We've still got the situation where the ballot boxes are going to go over the hills and far away. And we've still got the situation where no exit poll will be carried out.
I want to address this one for IP freely. People should totally vote against the World Economic Forum. We don't vote the people onto the World Economic Forum. That's a forum made up of billionaires who think that they'll get God-given right to rule over us. And big corporations, of course. Luggy, the theft of democracy. As I say, it's not a bad idea to put some leverage on, Charlie. But now, you and I both agree it should be a Scottish plebiscite election.
Yeah.
But it needs to have authority. So it looks like it's going to be a Westminster mandate for that election. Then we can bring forward a Scottish election.
Yeah.
And I reckon there'll probably be a Westminster election in August, September this year.
Well, it's like somebody, American baseball, where they try and hit the ball, right? I think we should have a situation where we hit the ball as many times as we want until eventually we get it, right?
Well, David, eventually you've got to say to yourself, if people keep saying no, then you stop asking the questions for a while, don't you?
Thing is, though, where the situation where the 2014 referendum, I'm looking at it myself, that was rigged. It was fiddled. The table was tipped completely up against the people of Scotland, right? And okay, people that voted no, they've got to own that, and they've got to realise that what they did and what they cost us, so that not that they are embarrassed by it, but so that it doesn't happen again.
Aye. And we know that the Scottish Parliament has the power to make amendments to Scottish elections. They can change the ballots, counted and things like that in the Scottish election, because elections are totally devolved.
But we need,
with the exception of Westminster election.
We all talked about this directly after the 2014 referendum, when we found out there was allegations of vote fiddling on an industrial scale, right? And we all talked about different ways whereby we could have a system that would not allow that. So in other words, one suggestion we came up with was the vote being counted at each polling station, so that the polling boxes didn't go over the hills and far away where anything could happen to them.
Nathan McAllister says, David McGuinness, if we lose the Westminster plebiscite election in 2 years or so, and we can have a whole plebiscite election, is that correct? The idea, as I say, I think the idea the SNP are going to run on is that a majority of MPs is a mandate to hold a plebiscite Scottish election. I think that's what they're going to run on, but we'll find out when we get to the conference.
That's just adding time into the thing.
You want 2 cracks at the whip, so you're getting 2 cracks at the whip.
Yeah, but it needs to be 2 cracks at the whip where each crack creates independence.
There's only one vote that can do that because of the Supreme Court ruling. Which is a Westminster plebiscite election, apparently.
No, I disagree. There are things that can be done right now where we can have a Scottish election, right? If Nicola Sturgeon has got to blooming resign to make it happen, if Douglas Ross has got to be in the hot seat for like a few days while we get a vote of no confidence out, so be it. Let's not be scared here.
But you've got to remember what's being said here. What's being said here is if we do it in the Scottish plebiscite election without first having the mandate at Westminster, then they can ignore it.
David, how many mandates have we had?
Hundreds.
Correct.
How many have been over 50% of the vote, David?
Yeah, but what we're waiting for?
We're waiting for the SNP, obviously.
It's not a first past the post system we've got in Scotland, right? So we know everybody, even if they don't accept it, everybody still has to recognise that it is harder in Scotland to have a big majority than anywhere else in the UK, obviously.
Didn't dead folk vote in 2014, or was that fake? That was fake news. Dead people voted in 1979.
79, that's right.
And that's because we didn't have electrified electoral rolls at that time, and people generally just updated the electoral roll once a year.
Yeah, but the main thing was that they put a figure on it that we had to actually have, was it 40% of the population had to vote yes, and that then made if somebody didn't vote, that counted as a no vote.
That's right.
So therefore, somebody that's dead and lying in their coffin or whatever.
Who hasn't been taken off the electoral roll, couldn't he?
That's right.
Brian Stewart said he gets his new passport in 2028. We need independence before then.
We'll try and make that happen for you, Brian. We'll try and make that happen.
Let's try. But this is going to be an interesting debate as we get into nearer and nearer to this conference in the 19th of March, because this is going to be very soon. This stuff's going to be plastered out of the papers. We're going to get one MSP and one MP's opinion week in, week out, you know.
Yeah.
And that'll use a better flavour. But as I say, I think there's already been 3 motions placed before the Parliament on how you go about this. The Scottish election, the Westminster election are both combined. You know.
Margaret, thank you very much.
Give authority to the other, because it's our MSPs that carry our sovereignty down the road. Thank you, Margaret, very generous. Our MPs carry our sovereignty into that Parliament. So if we elect the majority of them and they tell that Parliament we are authorising the Scottish Parliament to hold a plebiscite election, that should satisfy the Supreme Court.
Let's not deny the effect that challenging the Supreme Court over the decision will have. Politically, that's quite powerful.
Yes, very powerful.
You know.
So if Angus Brendan McNeill, Joanne Cherry, and 10 or 12 other MPs cross-party down that road, because one of them is Margaret Ferrier, she's an independent, and then of course you've got the 2 that walk to Flaherty, the Alpha Party. So there's 12 MPs down there, and Joanne Cherry's no stupid. And we've just read that's what the Supreme Court said there. And what the Supreme Court said, folks, was that there's power in the ballot box.
Yes.
But what it also said was the Scottish Parliament doesn't have the power to hold a plebiscite, a single issue election on the matter. So it would need to be authorised by the people that carry our sovereignty down that road with a majority in a Westminster election. So because as it states in a democratic, what was it said again? Democratic, or in a democracy. Constitutional democracy based on constitution based on democracy. That's what it says. Yeah. Then that should be enough. You know.
So let's have a wee referendum on something else. But let's have King Big Ears in the dock as far as that's concerned. You know, let's have a referendum.
I mean, I think it's a great thing that, like you, we think it's a great thing that somebody's going to challenge the Supreme Court judgment.
Yeah.
I hope they've got big, deep pockets, folks, because the crowdfunder will be going out shortly.
Angus, when he was on, he made a good point, a couple of good points. which was that sometimes doing something purely for the political effect is more important than actually winning.
That's the guy you call the hitman, Stephen Flynn, did the other day there, when Zelensky popped up. With the two Muppets praising each other on their agreement on backing the Ukraine. Stephen Flynn says, I agree with that. No, let's get in about it. Liz Truss is an idiot. Apologise for what she did, you bam.
But she says she wasn't given a fair crack at the whip. It's like she really was trying to wreck and ruin the UK economy, and she just wasn't given a fair crack at the whip to do it and complete the job.
Aye. We'll see what comes out of this conference, but I mean, we get to vote on Angus's amendment to conference. So the party members who are at the conference, and it is quite expensive, David, it's 40 quid for a delegate's pass.
I think it'll just be managed for that.
I think you and I will stretch to 40 quid, but a lot of people who would like to have a voice.
I'll just go with the wife for more pocket money.
I don't know if there's going to be any digital voting as well, because I don't know whether they're going to allow delegates to vote digitally. I'm not sure yet.
George Neve says Sarah Sawyers suggests keeping the monarchy for now and focus on getting control back of our assets first on the Scottish Resistance show. Right? Fair comment, but as needs must. If it came to the point where the only way we can get independence is by threatening King Big Ears into realising the Scottish people are going to get rid of the monarchy unless he actually makes the people down in Westminster produce a Section 30, for example, right? Then that is the important thing.
I don't know what Sarah said on the Scottish Resistance, so I'm not going to try and interpret what anybody says there. But what we have to remember here, folks, is there's two claims of right. One pertains to removing the head of state, and the other one pertains to changing the form of governance. The 1689 claim of right is for removing the head of state, and the reason why Robin Cook changed it in the 1989 claim of right was because Robin wanted rid of the government. Wanted to be able to get rid of Westminster and the Crown. And because the 1689 one pertains only to the Crown, you needed another claim of right to be put into Scots law, which Robin did. And it's been accepted twice now by Westminster. And that was the people of Scotland the right to choose the form of governance that suits them best. So there's two claims of right. Now, as far as I'm aware, Salvo and these MPs are going to challenge the Supreme Court on the 1689 claim of right, on the fact that the decision was based on politics and no on law, because that was a political decision made by the Supreme Court. Angus states that in his amendment, it was a political decision. The Supreme Court's not in a position to make a political decision. It's only there to deal with legal matters.
We missed one for Stephen, pretty good. Maybe we should have a referendum in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland on whether England should be removed from the Union.
Well, I don't see why not. The problem is, will Westminster give the authority for that?
Oh dear.
George, the English monarchy is different from the Scottish monarchy, because here in Scotland, the monarch has a constitutional duty to Scotland, on Scotland's constitution, not on England's constitution. Scotland's constitution is based on the Declaration of Growth, and has been brought through our laws ever since in our legal traditions. And of course, the claim of right of 1689 is one of the laws that were put in place, which is constitutional here in Scotland, and it pertains purely to the monarchy.
I think it would be worthwhile on Facebook if I put together a poll, and the way the polls work on Facebook, it doesn't matter how many groups you put them through, it just adds to the total, right?
Aye.
Okay. And ask the question, ask if people are prepared to back Angus on his amendment.
Well, we'll find out when we get in conference anyway, but we can do that, David.
No, I think
and listen, on a different subject, Mark Telfer got a leaflet through the door today about rolling blackouts from Scottish Power.
Yes, and I've now had 4 or maybe 5 of those leaflets, and I was going to phone them up and say, look, what is this about? Basically, it tells you, it gives you what I think it's 102 is the number you dial if there's a blackout.
I need to address this one or not. England doesn't have a constitution. It's too busy interfering with everyone else's. And Stevie Charlton says that's one of the problems they have in England. No written constitution. We don't have a written constitution either. Our constitution is built into our legal system.
Yeah.
And it's based on precedents and laws.
Yeah.
And the sovereignty of the people is based on tradition, built into that legal system.
Yeah.
Hey, somebody's late to the programme. Naughty step. Don't burn your earth in a candle. So, where are we? 36 minutes in. So let's put it this way, it's a fast-moving picture. And let's move on to, who do you call him? Let's move on to Mr. McDonald's intervention.
Ah, Stuart. Yep.
Now, there's 2 Stuart McDonalds who are MPs for the SNP. One's for I'm Cumbernauld and Kilsyth East, but the one here in question here is the one for Glasgow South, and this is Stuart McDonald MP, and
he was the one for Eastwood. I think he was previously.
Well, anyway, what he's saying is that Westminster would just ignore a Scottish election as a plebiscite election. And his big suggestion is we continue political pressure on Westminster and hope they change their mind.
Do we realistically expect that somebody somewhere at some point in Westminster is going to give us a Section 30 to run a referendum? Is that a realistic hope? I don't think it is.
Yeah, well, anyway, David Keenan's asking, how long do you think it will be? How long do we think it will be until we get independence? Well, let's say it runs away. I think they're going to do it, and then I'll let you give your interpretation, David. Right? There's going to be a Westminster election some point this year, I think, and they'll run on it as a mandate to hold a Scottish election as a plebiscite election, because our MPs carry the sovereignty doing that, and that should give authority, allegedly.
Yeah.
And then 2026 there would be that plebiscite election, or they could bring it forward by amending the 2016 Scotland Act and standing orders in the Scottish Parliament, as pointed out by Angus. So there is every chance that it would be 2026, though, that plebiscite election would take place. Let's say the negotiations take the 18 months to 2 years, or maybe a wee bit longer, because you know how crap Westminster is at negotiating. So it's looking like the end of a decade.
Yes, that's precisely where I am. That's absolutely precisely where I am. And I hate the idea that we have still got another 7 years of this to go through before Scotland managed to actually eventually kick off and take its place in the world stage.
And John says no chance in hell of a Section 30 order. There's always a chance. Not likely, but there's always a chance.
Yeah.
So, you say there's always that chance.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is also the chance that there could be a hung Parliament if there's an early Westminster election, because there are so many dummies down that road will continue to vote Tory.
Well, yeah. If
that brings us on to the poll out the day.
Yeah.
Poll out the day says if there was a snap election now, the SNP would be the official opposition in Westminster. Because the Tories would lose that many seats. I think I don't see it myself.
Yeah, I don't see it myself, but that's actually quite funny, the thought of it, But Starmer the other day there said there's no way, absolutely no way. Obviously, any leader would go, there's no way that they would do a deal with the SNP to get them into number 10. But the situation arrives. He'll come in.
The First Minister's backing it. First Minister says he better not.
Yeah, Starmer wants into number 10, and it doesn't matter who he's got to kill and bury in his back garden, he'll do it to get into number 10. And if it means doing a deal with the devil as what he regards the devil, the SNP, he will do it. And the SNP would be quite right to say, yeah, all right, okay, we'll do it, but there's
Paul McMillan that put SNP over 50% if the general election brought that amount of votes. We had 56 MPs with 49% of the vote in Scotland.
I mean, this question of actual voter numbers. If it's a general election, Westminster general election, as far as I'm concerned, the unionist politicians can bleat on about, you never got over 50%. A Westminster general election has never relied on that. And so, therefore, it should not be part of the equation.
No, it shouldn't be.
So long as we get the maximum number of MPs voted in down in Westminster that are independents, supporting MPs, that should be it. That should be.
To be honest with you, that's basically the Supreme Court said.
Yeah.
Well, basically, the Supreme Court said that if we send in 59 out of 59, that's the authority to tell them to fuck off.
If we send down 53 or 59, that's still the authority
to tell them to bugger off. When they won the 56, you should tell them to bugger off.
Yes. I'm sat here with a bit of knot in my stomach. I really, really want to speak out what I really feel. And with the 2015 general election, should have been it. When we sent down, I think it was it 58 or 57?
But we didn't run on a mandate to make independence.
As far as I'm concerned, it was still pro-independence MPs that went down. The bat should have been struck then. It should have been, right, okay, bye guys. Yeah.
Chatty Rat says current polling for Westminster has Tories 112 seats, Labour 460 seats, Lib Dem 17 seats, SNP 47 seats. Well, the polling I've seen puts the SNP on 57 seats actually, but I'm not going to get into an argument with you, Chatty Rat, because polling changes all the time. And the other thing about what they were talking about was a snap election in Davies, see the Tories wiped out and become smaller. That election is not going to happen today. And as for the huge lead that Labour have in the polls, I can guarantee you that when the polling's actually done at the ballot box, that huge lead is not going to be as big as what it is in the polls.
Right, let's have a wee question put out to all our viewers at the moment, right? Can you possibly give me a realistic reason as to why the conference for the SNP has been held off for 5 whole months and being brought forward on the end of March? Does anybody possibly have an answer to that?
Well, you've got time to make a venue, you've got your time to set up a venue, or that sort of thing.
To be honest with you, they're not looking.
IP Freely says we're to collapse Holyhead. What Holyhead ever date to you? Nah, we know what you mean, IP Freely. Right? Collapse Holyhead. That's one way to do it. But what happens is the First Minister resigns at this point in time. Let's say the Tories put up Douglas Ross for First Minister. The SNP, the Greens abstain, doesn't matter. Ross still becomes First Minister.
Yeah.
until they put forward a vote of no confidence, of course.
Which they would do. Which, if you actually work it out as a logical progression, First Minister Nicola Sturgeon resigns. That means that they have 28 days to actually bring forth another First Minister suggestion. They don't at that time. Then what happens is it goes to an internal vote in the Holyrood, and that at that point in would come Douglas Ross. Then you've got maybe 7 days of that mess, and until a vote of no confidence comes forward, right?
Now, so
you're talking about 2.5, 3 months of absolute mess, whilst it gets sorted out until eventually it get right. Okay, we need to dissolve the Holyrood Parliament, and that would be done.
Let's deal with this one or not. It should be end of February for conference. I'm sure there's a reason why it's been the date, and it's probably have to do with the availability of the venue they picked.
It's always right. We'll do it next year, or we'll do it in 10 months' time, or we'll do it in 2 years' time, or whatever.
But hold on, Scotland's got a very busy conference season here. We had a lot of conferences. Venues can only be available at such and such a times.
Hang on. That's my opinion.
You were asking why it's then. You'll probably find it's because that's when they can get the venue they wanted, because Scotland is a very, very busy conference circuit. We had a lot of conferences here. The Aberdeen conference centres are busy. The SECC is always busy.
You said yourself, it's a single issue conference.
Yep.
And it could have been done outside Holyrood with a blooming megaphone.
Could be done. Any big venue, because I hired a sports venue, but it all depends how much money the SNP are voting up.
It could have been done on the steps of Holyrood.
Listen, you asked. My answer is it's probably because the venue they wanted was available at that date.
Yeah, all right, okay. Another excuse to spend money. It would have been freer or cheaper if it was done on the steps of Holyrood.
I know. But I mean, you did ask the question. My opinion is it's probably when they could get the venue they wanted.
Okay, all right. I forgive you.
Mark's got a great point. The £40 price tag, but you can only get X amount of people into the venue anyway.
Yeah.
The Edinburgh Conference Centre. It shouldn't have been
Mark, I assure you that when I pay my 40 quid, I will be fighting for all those that I know that want a Holyrood plebiscite. That goes without saying. It's the other ones that you've got to watch out for. The ones that don't want a Holyrood plebiscite.
As I say, I really do think the option that the conference will end up with will be a Westminster election to give authority to a Scottish election.
Yeah.
And that will meet the Supreme Court stipulations. And I will be, David and I say we'll be at that conference and we'll be voting on Angus Brennan McNeil's amendment, and I'll be voting for his amendment.
We'll try not to get thrown out, but you know what I mean. It's it comes down to what is legally, what I'm going to say, what is politically expeditious under the circumstances. If we are going to get voted down, as in it becomes a Westminster plebiscite and it starts to get forced through, I assure you, I'll be noisy, and I know he will too. All right.
That might bloody noisy. But hey, no, hey, I was asked earlier if there was a notification in my email about this conference. Hey, I don't think so, but I'll once I know what the script is, I'll have a look. I'll be putting my membership number into the site and booking my delegates pass. Simple as that. And hey, James, I'll address this one for you now. If you dissolve the Scottish, where is it?
Sorry, jump down. That is fifth
It's
down.
moving quick. If you dissolve the Scottish Parliament, will Westminster simply take back control by means of emergency legislation? They're not ready to do that yet.
They could try.
They could try, but it wouldn't sit well with the Scottish people.
They can fiddle about with all sorts, but I think taking that it was 77%, 78% voted for the Scottish Parliament in the first place. Yeah. I think to actually take over, for Westminster to take over or shut it down or whatever, would be a very, very stupid thing to do.
Yeah, we've got another one saying that we should go into question time. They don't let David and I on the BBC.
So if you could actually manage to get into the BBC and on Pacific Quay and get into the staff room where all the senior staffers are, right? The ones that actually make up the political choices on that thing, you'd actually see a picture of David and I on the back of the door with an arrow sticking out.
Anyway, Mad Monk 33 saying, David, who's looking after Buster when I go up north? You are Mad Monk 33. You're looking after him. I'll drop him off on the Friday night queue. Just in case anybody doesn't know, Mad Monk 33 is my brother.
Yes.
So.
My goodness me, George Neve, that's you must be a 70s child. Use a vocoder to change your voice on BBC Radio. I haven't heard that since I was in a band back in the 70s.
Listen, George, I changed my telephone number and they still knew it was me and tell me to piss off. Didn't I, David? Because I drove away, I left my phone and tap in a car, and the car behind it ran out of bloody tappy. It's going to run out of tappy. So to get a new phone, I got a new SIM card and I changed my number. And I phoned the BBC and they still knew it was me. Right, well, if they go and drag apparently, David, and call ourselves the two Davies, they won't recognise us. Thanks for asking, bro. I did bloody ask you a couple of weeks ago.
Thing is, though, it's like I wouldn't feel right going to the ladies' toilet with drag on. I'd have to go into the men's toilet. What would they say about that? About women actually going to the men's toilet?
Right.
I think the phrase the other men in front of the urinals would be James Cribbins, help my Bob.
Right, apparently we're being told when they go through a branch to get delegate pictures passes for this one, and they're only allowed 2 delegates per branch. I need to look into that.
If that's the case, then as far as I'm concerned, that's the SNP using anti-democratic means against their members.
Yes, I would agree with that.
As far as I'm concerned, anybody that wants to attend that venue that is an SNP member should be allowed to go. The branches should not have that kind of power.
I don't know about talk radio being anti-Scottish. I don't listen to gammon television or radio. But what I do know is that Jonathan Fair thinks that me and Gordon Ross are a pair of racists. So there you go.
Just Stephen, bloody hell, man. Should use a ring modulator to change your voice instead. Bloody hell. It's like, these are things I was building as kits when I was like 6 or 7 years of age.
The reason why question time wouldn't have us on is because we are bloody intelligent. Most of the morons are in question time. And at least the panels are morons.
Nathan McAllister says nothing beats GB News for being anti-Scottish. In actual fact, I've been watching. I've been switching on to GB News on a night time, and it's when that wee historian, what do they call him, with the long hair
and the big massive beard now, he looks like a tramp. Neil Oliver.
Neil Oliver. He's on, and listen to him. It's like I actually think he's beginning to become a yeser.
I think he's really crossed the line, aye.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see what I've done there.
Yeah.
We've seen a few famous people turn.
Yeah.
Like Ewan McGregor and others, you know.
The thing is, what I need is for people that last time, 2014, who voted no. Instead of coming on Facebook or whatever and saying, look how good I am, I've changed my mind. I would like to see them take ownership of what they did and how much it cost each one of us in Scotland. And the reason for doing that, the reason for taking ownership, is to make bloody sure it never happens again.
As long as they change their mind, and they change their mind for good reasons, David, I don't care about the damage that's been done.
It's cost all of us.
All that's really happened is it just meant the damage that's been done and is being done is making it more likely that people will vote to leave.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
And IP Freely thinks Oliver realises he was wrong.
Yeah.
I think that's what David's saying on now. But there is one thing I have to say about watching GB News, David. And that is be very careful. We don't want you turning into a gammon. Although I don't think you're likely to be brainwashed for that sort of crap, but you never know.
It's just interesting to see some of the points of view. Yeah.
And there's somebody here saying that many no's were based on this bloody thing's moving so fast. Many no's were based on the economy currency question.
Yeah.
Spinny disappointed again a couple of months ago. The reply he has still not been refined. Listen, see this. I mean, everybody's got an opinion, even John. But SNP conference said that it was 2019 that we should introduce the Scottish currency as soon as possible, and the 2021 conference we should constitute a central bank as soon as possible. So there you go.
Yeah.
That covers the currency question. Hey, Martin Boyd's mum and dad voted no the last time, and they've been voted yes this time after the EU referendum. That's the same way many. Listen, if you feel like if Oliver wishes he'd voted SNP, he could always come out and say, you know what, I've changed my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm going to join the SNP. You know, he could always say he was going to change his mind. Or he has changed his mind.
What got me at the time, the run up to the 2014 referendum, was all these stars like David Bowie. David Bowie actually, it was the music festival that he had these words read out at the time, asking people to vote no. And I just thought, bloody hell. And I've followed that guy, listening to his music for practically all of my woman life. And
that's what you call outside interference and free elections.
That's right.
Why were we being dealt the opinion of any bloody superstar in England? As if we give a damn here in Scotland what an Englishman thinks when it comes to this question. Unless that Englishman lives here and has a stake here in Scotland, to which end that English person's got a franchise.
Yeah, but it did change. It did. Where people were like that, they were swithering as to whether they were going to vote yes or no. I tell you what, a lot of them will have been.
Westminster should have been in the international courts for the way it played that game. I mean, every bloody cinema you went in to watch a movie had a pro-union bloody video on it.
Yes, I know. I remember that at the time. That was ridiculous. Yeah.
The amount of money that Westminster spent on brainwashing some people, telling them it was going to hurt their wallets. Well, guess what? You voted no, your wallet's been hurt badly.
Yeah.
And after that, people doing that road keep doing the same thing, looking for a different outcome. And that is definitely the definition of stupidity.
The thing is, though, now, because we're like, what is this, 7, 8 years beyond the referendum now? Yeah.
Nearly. This is 2023. It was 6 years to 2020.
That's right. Yeah. So going off that, if Scotland had been declaring its independence properly in 2017, yeah,
aye,
then you've got maybe 5 years, 6 years when you could have been in a much better position, earning an awful lot more if you're in a job, or getting an awful lot more if you're in a pension or whatever, right? And that is the actual thing where we have lost an awful lot individually.
Aye. Anyway, we've done our hour. We hope you enjoyed it, folks. Now, if you're on YouTube, hit the like button, please. Subscribe, because we're on the subscribers drive.
Yeah, we need more subscribers, guys. We do need help on that. We need every one of you to help us out by getting folk to subscribe to the channel if you can. If you're on here and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do it, because at the end of the day, it won't make a massive difference to you, apart from the fact you'll get a notification of when we're going live, but it makes a huge difference to the actual channel itself.
And it would appear that although we can't put the notification out on YouTube, we can put one out on YouTube and Facebook via Restream to give you prior notice. But I'll need to work out how to do it.
Yeah.
I'll need to work out how to do it. All right. I might have to spend the money on buying the platform actually, so we can. I might just do that, David. I'll just pay the couple of £100 and buy the platform.
No worries. You know, fine. Well, you've got my half going in, so it doesn't matter, right?
I'll have a look at it. I'll have a look at it, because it's definitely worth it. We're making hopefully we're making an impact. Audience viewing figures are going up every week.
Yeah,
which is great.
I'm genuinely taken aback by the number of people that come on. Obviously, they come on here because of you, David. But
actually, this is a different program, David, and there's different viewers. There's names here that I don't see on my show.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
So it's, although there's a lot of the same viewers, the two Davies does have a different viewership, but the viewing numbers right now are 174 live is brilliant. It was up as high as 196 with people passing through. And Hugh, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, you were past when I asked you to look after Buster, I think. Hey, George, this is your day off, is it, mate? Good. Thanks for spending it with us.
Right. So, just leaves me to say, bye, Davey.
Hold on. What? If you're on Facebook, give me money to change this to public, and please share. I've noticed even my share ratio has been down on Facebook. That Facebook are limiting me again. But what I do know is that the viewer numberships know it's still hovering around 1,000 on Facebook. Okay. Right now, bye, Davey.
Hi, Davey.
I'm going.
Bye, guys.
I'm going to work. I'll catch you later.